Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Nick Snap. I'm the host of the Miracles Atheists podcast and just the overall platform in whatever format you see Miracles Atheists. I'm here with Mr. Niel Guilarte.
Hey.
Hey, and you heard him before. You saw him before a week ago, I think it was, and you're a repeat visitor. So what's going on? We got a little relationship going on here, I think.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for bringing me back. That means I did okay the first time.
Of course. We're doing the Miracles and Atheists podcast right now, but Niel and I have known each other for a long time now. I think we're going back to, I want to say it's 2014, Niel.
Yeah, it's like 14 or early 15.
That's 9 years. That's hard to believe. It's been
it goes quick, man.
Yeah,
and still doing this thing, right? Everything from podcasting to working in the different mediums.
Yep. My podcasting journey has been an interesting one, going from the productivity space and just kind of bumping into Niel at the entrepreneurs meeting. And I didn't know anything about really being an entrepreneur, but we got together, and I'm from Florida and Niel's still in Florida. And we just started talking about what would it be like to podcast, and Niel helped launch that first podcast, the Make It Snappy Productivity Show. Not a lot of people know who watch this podcast. That's really where my roots were from. Yep. And got to the point where I decided to take all those podcasting skills that I developed during that time period. It was fun. And apply it to a more purpose-driven platform. And as I continued to see how that thing evolved, I felt this calling, as everybody knows, to make this movie, but I had no idea even where to get started. So I called the one man I knew who knew anything about making movies, and that's who you're watching and listening to right now, Niel Guilarte. So welcome, man. We're going to be doing this. The announcement that we made last time is this is going to be a regular thing. Yes. And engaging everybody that's watching this community has been so faithful through all the peaks and valleys and the roller coaster of things that have gone with this heavy topic, right? You're bringing believers and atheists together, and you're talking about heavy, important things, and it can be just it's not for everybody, right? No. So if you're following this platform, you continue to hang with it, you have a lot of conviction in one direction and the other. And for Niel to come into this space, man, it's hats off to you, brother. I'm continuously, I think about you and your involvement now, and we've been friends for a long time, obviously, but now you're getting into this space with me, man. What's God doing in your life right now that would actually open you up to doing something like this?
Well, listen, man, I think you left out one important thing was that, yeah, we've known each other since we started podcasting, but, you were in our podcasting film called The Messengers, a little cameo there. And that was sort of the seed. We got to at least work a little bit on that. And when you were ready to do your project, I was just coming off of that. And, we've been talking about this for a hot minute. We couldn't quite make it happen right away. As everybody might know, making any kind of a film, even a short film, can be quite a costly endeavor. Because if you think about audio, like podcasting, it's Nick and I, it's our time and maybe the equipment, right? But when you talk about a film, you're talking about a crew of people. You're talking about a lot of travel, mobilization, equipment that costs more than a small vehicle without a lens attached to it. Audio gear, and just a host of different things. So when Nick first came to me about this, taking the Miracles and Atheists idea and saying, listen, the Lord wants me to make a film. He keeps challenging me to go beyond. And I keep doing other mediums because I think that's the way to go. But then the Lord keeps touching me. And that's when Nick reached out to me, and I felt, it's funny. I'm kind of going through that as well, where taking these skills I've honed over the past 32 years in television, film, and wanting to make a bigger impact with it. I mean, yes, I get to work in this space every day, but this is just a different, especially after I went to visit recently to kind of complete recording our video for the crowdfunding campaign that we want to do to sort of birth this film. And I'm sure we'll get into all that.
Sure.
And then we started praying for people, and it became way more than just, I'm here to record it, right? By the time I left, we were both actively out there, albeit me way less pro than you guys, but like I said, getting involved and coming home, and then just realizing, wow, we are doing something big, but we need the help of the community to do it.
That's right. Yeah, this is big, and I could feel it brewing. I'm not sure if anybody else besides you and I feel it yet. Maybe some folks are really close to us, and obviously we have a couple folks that have been pouring into this platform, not only just support from a encouragement perspective, but financial support. We have a couple guys in particularly that have just really been sowing into this since it's humbling, like 2018,
Yeah.
just little
And
by
they,
little. And that's part of the story of this is I'd be honest with you, I didn't forget about the movie idea, but I thought it was so far off
Mhm.
that it was so intangible. But I had put a very half-hearted pitch back in 2018 when I first launched this platform. And that's when a lot of you might remember when I was podcasting with atheists and Christians for 4 hours at a pop every other week. And people were kind of concerned about my sanity and what I was doing because I never even did anything like this before. But I made a half-hearted pitch in that time period. And I put a little link on a website and forgot about it for, I don't know, a year and a half or a couple years. And then I just happened to check it and I saw that it had $4,000 donated to that platform over a couple years. And it was one guy primarily. And man, that woke me up like, wow, I have accountability now. This was an idea that somebody besides myself believes in. Somebody probably believed in it more than I did, at the time. And it woke me up like, I can't just let somebody invest in this and not do
yeah.
anything with it. So
I mean,
that
how
was a
cool is that? Thanks to that person, thanks to that group of people, we're sitting here today, kind of I mean, I don't like to say the launching because you and I've been talking about this for a hot minute, but and a lot of people have asked, what's taken so long? And I really think that it's a God timing thing, and then we're trying to do it at our timing sometimes, and it just keeps getting done right. Like we keep getting paused a little bit, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, it's perfect timing. So I would love to thank those people. You doing that allowed us to get together, have Nick come down to Florida, come to our studio and put together a concept of how we could raise the amount of support we need to actually make this a reality. And it basically kind of covered the pre-production of what we would now consider a full-blown crowdfunding campaign. I know you had to come down a few times to record. We took time
Sure.
to interview a few people, shot it in a beautiful 4K. So I'm excited that that's sort of the process. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about the movie making process today, but also in a future episode, we're going to give you guys some great updates on where that is. But Nick, at the end of the day, listen, it's all about God's timing, not ours.
Mhm.
And we have the skills, we have the abilities, we have some of the connections. Certainly, we've got the vision.
That's
But again, it's not like you or I could just come out and, seed 20, 30, $40,000. I mean, travel budgets alone to go and, follow these stories to other cities, potentially other countries. I want to kind of touch on this one little thing before we get into the whole process is before there's a process for a film, there's a vision for it, right? Nick has a vision. He poured that vision into me. I'm like, wow, I want to be part of this. We can do this. But as soon as that vision becomes which we jotted down notes, right? Like our outline, what does
Yeah.
this movie look like in our little heads? Right away, we realize, this is big.
Yeah.
This is something that's going to be a time consuming, long ball game. But I think we were both committed. And that's why we're here today to sort of introduce to the listeners who have been supportive. Let's talk about this process now that we all have apparently shown financially support, and
Mhm.
Nick and I are here still like putting it together. Let's talk about now what that process is going to be to give
That's
you
right.
guys a realistic expectation of the hurdles that we need, as well as some of the victories, small victories we've had, and just what the general steps are for us to turn this into a full-fledged, we're making a documentary, and it's on the way, something you guys can
Right.
expect.
That's a great intro and just the movie making process overall, Neil. So if somebody came to you, not me, but just anybody off the street and said, "Hey, I have, I don't know, $75,000 to go make a movie," what would the first step be?
Prayer. I know. Um, always the first step is the vision. Well, a movie about what? Like what are you wanting to create? Is it these are the first things I look at, right? Is it something that's already in a saturated market? Is already tons of it out there? And is your idea and is your vision unique, so that we're not just blowing 75, we're investing in something that's new. At the end of the day, especially if there are aficionados of documentaries, like I enjoy watching many
Sure.
documentaries, you know, they're an audience that really values the quality, and they don't want to see, especially if it's a God thing, do not want to see I mean, for lack of a better word, a half version. I forgive me for saying that, but they don't want to see a lackluster effort, if you will. And so that's the first step in the process. What do you want to make? What's the order? What's the pizza? And then we go right into, and you and I did this, which was we met for dinner and we're like, okay, Nick, I need to get that huge idea out of your head and into paper.
Right.
The brain dump. It could be as unorganized as possible. And we did that a few months back. We had dinner, we went over the, you know, and don't limit, by the way, when you do this, you do not limit your vision. You know, God gave you a big one, you brain dump that big one. And that leads us to obviously kind of where we left off, which is we've then taken that concept, discussed it a ton, and we came up with the idea of, okay, overarching is we want to be or a conduit and see if we can capture that moment where an atheist or a non-believer experiences the power of God for the first time. That became basically the bow and arrow, the arrow that we're trying to launch. That is the driving vision of this film. And now we're entering what's considered the time to make it a reality step, which is we created a Patreon for people to continue to support us humbly without knowing the full vision. That's what these episodes are going to be about. And then, of course, teeing up a organized and formal crowdfunding campaign to where we can gather support of anyone that would like to see a documentary like this made, as well as the podcast. And then Nick and I would then go and begin the budgeting process and the logistical part, which I know, Nick, you're amazing at, as far as like breaking down big things into smaller chewable bites. And that's kind of the initial steps to any project, actually, not just a film, but specifically in film. Yeah,
You got it. Yeah. And what is it about film, Neil, for you personally? And I guess we can let maybe the audience know a little bit more about you and your background in film, but I'm just kind of curious, what is it about filmmaking that keeps you coming back to doing more and more of this?
That is easy. Film is intimate. When I was a kid and I would go to the movies with my dad, you know, mind you, I'm turning 50 in May, so I've seen a lot of movies. But I remember even seeing, you know, Rocky with my dad and being an independent film. And yeah, the fighting was excited, but how many amazing emotional scenes were in that movie, right? When he's defeated, when he's doubting himself, when he's building himself up to go do that big fight. And I remember being young and walking out of the theater, actually doing like the whole fist thing. Like I felt so motivated, so inspired. And any other film that I've seen that evokes an emotion, I think that although podcasting is very intimate because it's in between our ears, although there's other mediums, there's something about the romance of movies, right? And but I don't mean just love, but the way we romanticize them. They tend to fill something that we're either lacking or strengthen something we already are. And I think that the magic of quote unquote Hollywood, the people aspiring to share an amazing story that the world will like, not just their friends at home, that brings me back. And to end that sort of answer is, I love nothing more than to think of something that's only in my little head or in yours, write it down, and a year or so later, I'm literally sitting in a theater watching it. That is an intense, you've kind of been there as we screened The Messengers.
Yeah.
It's an intense moment of satisfaction. And so when you add then that we're doing this for God,
Right.
a lot of people biblically and in today's modern day don't feel that drive of doing something specifically for God. They do it because they feel inspired by God, where this to me feels much more mission. And so there's that excitement of making the product, but more importantly, hit and play that day. And 3 people walk out of there just like I did with Rocky, but they're doing this for their faith. Their faith is inspired and renewed.
That's right. Yeah, I like how you said that, man. It's the difference between podcasting and then filmmaking. I could see is just that emotional connection. I could watch a podcast or an interview, and I could see somebody maybe even well up in tears and kind of feel a little bit about that. But with being able to capture those moments, especially with a documentary where it's real life and people in action doing things. I think that's going to be the challenge, is to make sure that everything we do is authentic. It's always been authentic. I really try to go out here and be as humble as I can when I'm talking to somebody that doesn't think like I am. And I really make a conscious effort to listen and put myself in their position. And I think that's how facilitating those kind of dialogues, you've got to do that to an extent, and not go in there with the agenda to try to win a conversation. Because I think if that's your motivation, just to try to win, then that's selfish ambition. And I'm not pouring my heart into this platform to be rooted in selfish ambition. I can make money in tons of different ways, and I'm not doing this to make money. I'm doing it because I think it's important. And so I think with the filmmaking process, you've got to have authentic people who truly want to know. Like, I talk to a lot of atheists. Recently, I've been finding more and more atheists that say, yeah, I don't believe. I lack belief. But if there was a compelling reason for me to believe, I would like to believe, which is a stark difference in probably the atheists that you see online, who seem, a lot of them seem to be more evangelistic in nature, trying to supposedly set, these Christian God believing people straight and free. They think that they're setting us free. It's interesting. I don't know that. I don't want to make that assumption. It's not an assumption for all the atheists out there, but there seems to be a certain generation that we see and that are the loudest version online, that are more evangelistic, and that feel like they have a mission to set people free from God and the bondage that we're in, which seems very, very counter to how I see God now. And I think that if we can get authenticity on the Christian side, not somebody that's out there trying to make a name for themselves, that's really going out genuinely caring and being compassionate about not only the people that we interact with, but the people that don't believe. And you have sort of a partnership. I think that's a very unique form. It takes unique people to put this thing together, but man, we can do it.
But you just made a huge point. If I could touch on it, you said if we can get the authenticity on the Christian side, you literally just defined why we're doing it. Because when you in your intro, when you sort of mentioned, like, for me to come into this space, that's what brought me into this space, was that I kept asking you. I remember asking you numerous times, how do you stay so balanced and neutral when I know you're a Christian, I know you believe, but you're hosting this podcast that's sort of challenging, and maybe people tune in thinking it's going to be a debate, but it's not. It's open dialogue. But I realize that sometimes they're challenging everything you believe in. And that really was the first thing I loved. The second thing was, I was like, now how can we be that neutral, but yet present something on behalf of God, right?
Right.
How can we provide that safe place in the film environment where, by definition, look at Netflix, people watch documentaries, they fiend on these things. I mean, they basically binge them. And if you think about, all right, well, you've been doing podcasts for a while, it's making an impact. I know that you go out in person, you do street ministry, has made an impact. But there's something about movies that just draws people in. Hey, honey, let's watch a documentary tonight.
Yeah.
And then you think about what makes it attractive for not just the Christian to watch, but for the atheist to want to go, oh, hold on, are they attacking me? Or let me watch to see what this is. And when they realize that what it truly is just a better representation of what the podcast is doing, is providing a safe place in a visual storytelling format, I think that's going to be the game changer. I think people are going to walk away making their own opinions, their opinions being challenged. But you and I talked about one thing that I've always kind of, I don't know, sort of my outcome, my hope, my why is that, what if you're a parent and you have a child that thinks or believes or is, in their opinion, an atheist? And as a Christian parent, you don't even know how to talk to them. You're feeling the divide so big. And if you watch this documentary and it does absolutely nothing else but to give you the ability or understanding to now go upstairs and tell your kid, I want to talk and I'm going to listen. And I think I get an understanding now from this film of what you're going through. I'm not for it, but I want to talk to you. Now we've allowed them to have the same dialogue that the film allowed. Dude, that's the ultimate win for me. That's the ultimate win for you. I'll leave it at that. I just think that to me is what I want to see in the outcome.
I love that, man. That's it's probably a really good way to end this thing. But I think the one message I do want to tell the folks that are listening and thinking about this this movie that we're doing, and just what we've done over the platform over the past, 5 years. That's even wild to think about. We want atheists to come into this project with us, believing that, yeah, we have an agenda in that we want to glorify God, but we're not here to make the atheist look foolish. We're really not. We want you to experience what you experience, and we want to experience what we experience, and then let's talk about what's really happening, what's really going on.
Yeah.
And if you can trust that we're going to do that authentically, and if God gets glorified, which I hope he does during that process, then that's just what happens, right?
I think he gets glorified even just in the process, Nick, even just in our effort. Like even just that we go to the table and say, hi, atheists, we are going to sit and talk. We're not here to be judgmental. We're here to provide a open dialogue. That alone, to me, he's being glorified. Now, shall we experience something cool, powerful, divine beyond that? Oh man, that's the expectation we have. But at the same time, will we walk away maybe more educated? Can we get more understanding? Are we being a bit judgmental? Should we just at least listen so we can better coexist until something shifts? That's sort of the part that's like, ooh, that's the scary part, right? I did want to just touch on one more thing, because I know we need to wrap, but you had asked me earlier to kind of just cover the process, and I just want people to understand that we are not super deep into the process yet, in the sense that, yes, it's now formalized, guys. We are announcing we are making a movie. Number two, it is formalized. We have shot the initial crowdfunding media and assets. Next steps is that they're going to be in post-production to put together something that tells our why, so that we can hopefully gain support from all sides to finance the ability to begin production. Where we are right now is in that early post. We'll talk about that in the next episode. But most importantly, what Nick and I are hoping is, do you want to take this journey? Like, instead of just he and I being excited on these calls and he and I texting each other all week, and would you like to go from this podcast to seeing what makes you stick to the podcast in a documentary? Would you like to see us go to some of the most atheist parts of the United States and put a microphone on a table and say, let's talk? Do you want to see us, at least on your behalf as a Christian, to at least walk out with the flag into the middle of the street and say, we're not afraid to talk? You guys can sit back and watch. Then we would love your support as we move forward, whether it be currently through the Patreon, just to kind of seed the basics that Nick and I need just to stay traveling to one another, communicating. We are not in the same state. Small things that we do need to expend and to generate the ability to create the movie, right? Script writing fees, copywriting fees, things that are going to come along the way. And then lastly, guys, can you believe in us how you believe in the podcast and how you believed in Nick over the years? Can I convince you to put your money where your mouth is and to actually help us achieve it? That's what we're here to ask for. But at the same time, we're here to have great conversations while we're waiting to make this on the podcast so that it's a robust experience. So that's what we're hoping for. And I'm excited to be a part of it. And thanks for having me on this episode.
It's always a pleasure. If you want to help us out in the meantime, between now and the crowdfunding campaign, you can go to patreon.com/miracles and atheists. There'll be links in this podcast episode or the video you're watching. It's up there on the screen. And we appreciate all the support for so many years, and we're going to make it. You're going to be proud of what we put together here. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.